So
we didn't know Musa.
Aaron's captain says he doesn't need Musa.
Well, he's an out of towner now.
he's going
He
to
gets
Orlando.
enough-
He doesn't need Musa.
They two of them, Avi and Aaron, because they get Musa from the Shviga. They don't need.
Rabara, she was here for 3 hours Shabbos afternoon. I didn't have to go to Shabbos Agala Drasha.
Okay.
I'm gonna put
Anyways.
myself on mute. I'm gonna put myself on mute.
Yeah. Just a couple of lines here on Musa. So we left off the worst hatred that you could have is people that hate people that give them musr, the people that hate the people that give musr. There you go. Right? What Alan was just discussing. Yeah? If you hate people that give you musr, that's the worst sin. Which is interesting because he just said, he said the worst of the types of sinner was that, and then he says, then there's a sinner that's worse than that. This does come up on Pesach a little bit sometimes. Those that hate people that try to do good and run after being righteous. Yeah, meaning you see people trying to be machmer and you make fun of them, right? It makes the whole thing into litzanis, and they're not trying to they're trying to be good people. They're trying to be machmer. So you make fun of them and all that, it makes a whole litzanis out of the whole thing, right? People that go in this way hate Hashem because they hate the people that He loves. The people that love Hashem, and then you end up hating the Torah and the mitzvahs. Because you're being disgusted by anybody that's Mekayim the mitzvahs, which is what unfortunately happens. Anybody that's frummer than us, we go after them and say, yeah, frummer. Okay, whatever. Anyways, we'll stop over there. Have a good night.
Yaakov, but there's an Indian. I mean, there's an Indian not to be somebody that's overly from. No,
it depends.
I'm not saying you have to hate the person.
Not that there's nothing.
Or you have to make latanas to him, but there's an Indian not to be that way, especially if it puts other people in a bad position.
Yes, there's nothing wrong be'etzem with being from.
As long as nobody else gets affected by it.
That's true, of course. But
I'm saying if somebody shows up to your meal or your seder and he's getting all machmer and he's driving people crazy, that's a different story.
That's true, but some of us, like we just see a guy being machmer, he's minding his own business and he's being machmer, and we start making fun. Right? We start making fun and you know what I mean? Well, listen, I'm not going to say the we. Right? I'm saying, yeah, what is this guy doing? I mean, yeah. So
everybody's either firmer than you or less firm than you.
Correct.
They're not firm at all, or the two. They're a zealot.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Anyways, okay. So where did we leave off? We left off on the bottom. Omar Shmuel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You recording, Perek? Okay. So Omar Shmuel. So again, we said we're talking about the case. We're talking about the case where the two brothers got mixed up with the two sisters. I mean, they got engaged to the right wife, and then they got mixed up when it came to the chuppah. They got mixed up, and this one was married to the wrong wife. So it could theoretically be over on 4 isurim. It can be Eishes Ish, Eishes Ach, Achois Isha, and the Nida, right? Yeah. So that's what we're holding. So then we said that once they have this problem, then they can get back together again because they were an oinus, but not for 3 months, right? They can't get together for 3 months because maybe they got pregnant, and we're not going to know. Right, so they're not going to know if who's the father. You're not going to know who the father is, so you have to wait 3 months. Right, so Amar Shmuel. The kulon tzrichas lahamten shloisha chadashim. All of these women, right, who were married the wrong husbands, they need to all wait 3 months before they go back to their original husbands. The hamten shloisha chadashim, they have to wait 3 months. Chutz migiyores and meshachreres katana, except a giyores and an eved that was freed that are less than 12 years old, because those don't have to. Those don't have to wait 3 months. Now we're going to see why this is. Yeah. So Gemara says, "Aval ketana bas Yisroel." That's mashma that a ketana. Again, he only says of giyaris mishuchreres ketana, but a ketana bas Yisroel, it's mashma. Tzricha lahavdin gimel chadashim, needs to wait 3 months. Uvamai. So why exactly? What is the scenario where a ketana needs to wait 3 months before she goes back to her husband or gets married to somebody else? Even miyun, if we're talking about miyun, now miyun again is if a girl loses her father when she's young, and then she gets married off by her sister and her brothers. So she has up until 12 to nix the shidduch. Even if they married her off at the age of 8, she can be married to the guy for 4 years and then just wake up one day and say, "I'm out." That's called miyun, right? Yeah, so that's so if it's miyun and she does, so now this girl does miyun. So Havar Shmuel the loy boy. We already said that Shmuel says that you don't need to wait 3 months, right? V'i beget, and if we're talking about where the katana got divorced, Havar Shmuel chadazimna. Shmuel already said that once. The Havar Shmuel miyana ha'ena tzricha lahamten shloisha chadashim, right? I'm sorry, miyun boy ena tzricha lahamten shloisha chadashim. If she does miyun, meaning she backs out of the marriage, she doesn't need to wait 3 months. Nasan lo get tzricha lahamten shloisha chadashim. And if she's given a divorce, she does have to wait 3 months, right? Ela biznus, right? So must be talking about where the katana was mezana, right? Okay, so and then some mamela what? So she was mezana, so then she has to wait 3 months because the rabbana katana b'shem gedola, and the chacham made a gezeira of a katana because of a gedola, meaning really a katana we said cannot get pregnant. So why does she have to wait 3 months? If she's mazana, why does she have to wait 3 months to go back to her husband? Not mazana, well, not her. If she was actually mazana, she obviously can't go back to her husband. But if whatever it was a ma'anis or anything like that, so why does she have to wait 3 months? It's a gezeira because if she's a gedola, that's what she has to do, wait 3 months. So therefore, when she's a katana, you have to also wait 3 months. So the Gemara says, "Umi gazrina and katana mishum gedola." Do we make a gezeira from a katana because of a gedola? If the Mishna, our Mishna says that if they're katanas that are not right to give birth, meaning in our Mishna where the 2 brothers got mixed up with the 2 sisters, so if the 2 sisters were less than 12 years old, that they're not right to have kids, then we give them right back to their husbands. Why? Because they can't be pregnant, so there's no reason to wait 3 months. So then what is Shmuel talking about? That we make a gezeira for katan atu a gadol, right? We don't do that in our Mishnah. So the Gemara answers, Amarav Gidol, Amarav Hayrashah. So that was a Hayrashah, that was a temporary psak for an oddball situation. It's not every day that the Bezdin gets 2 men that get mixed up with their wives and marry wives that they weren't supposed to. So since that was a crazy situation, so therefore they allowed the katan to go right back to the husband. What are you saying?
Is Hayrashah the proper word? Isn't it like loishchiach?
Hayrashah means it was a temporary thing that you can't learn anything out from it.
So it was temporary?
It was a weird case. The case of the 2 brothers.
It's not shchiach. It's not.
Is this why we don't allow to marry twins or whatever in the same town or sisters in the same town or something?
Hayrashah means there will matter something.
For that time. That's
for that
it.
time, because it's a special circumstance. Right?
Correct.
So here,
which Rashi says it's loy shchiach. Rashi on here says it's loy shchiach. That's right. What it means.
Right. The Lashon of the Gemara just threw me off. Hayrashah.
Yeah, and Echanami. So the Hayrashah, the way Rashi at least is understanding it here, is that it's loy shchiach. So therefore, it's loy shchiach. So we're going to let the katana go right back to the husband. But otherwise, we're going to make a gezeira that a katana has to wait 3 months or 2 a gedola. What are you
So
saying?
if the Metzias changed, the Rosh Hashanah would change.
Could
Now
be.
Metzias now changed. Girls under 12 can become pregnant.
Oh, yeah. So,
That's
yes. That's true. Girls
That's
under
enough.
12 could become pregnant. Yeah, so we have to see if that's, yeah. What are you saying?
What's another example of Korasha
Corona.
that was
Corona.
enacted?
Corona. During Corona.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, but that's it depends what level Hayrosh Shah you're talking about. Hayrosh Shah, nobody nowadays, I hope, is not doing Hayrosh Shah. I mean, they may call it Hayrosh Shah, but that's not, they're going to be relying on other shitas. What was the Hayrosh Shah? See, I don't know how you go Ace Lasses. Is Hayrosh Shah the same as the Ace Lasses Lashem? Is that the same thing?
What would you say?
No.
Not the takana made not being able to marry more than one woman. Would that be it wasn't forever? It was Horasha.
What was 1,000 years Shah? Right?
Ramosha was mater Gunas after the war. Could that be?
See, Hayrosh Shah means that the psak is not like that.
That's not
But
a
for that
Rosh
particular situation, we allow it. I don't know. Nothing's coming to my head, to the top of my head, which is no raya. But I don't know. I'm thinking, what would be Hayrosh Shah?
Why? There were no corona. There weren't harass.
Yeah, but those weren't Hayrosh Shahs. Those were like, we're going to be Simech on.
Now we're extenuating circumstances. That's not a case of really it's not mutter, but we allow it.
No, the corona.
I'm
was
not sure what you mean by
Hayrosh Shah.
corona. What do you mean by corona Horasha? I don't even. I'm not.
Meaning that they let you not toivel kalim in the mikvah, and I don't know. They let all sorts of other stuff.
That's extenuating circumstances. You got a heter for that.
Yeah, but you have to rely on an opinion. You have to have we're relying on opinions.
Didn't the Gemara bring down the Zman the base of Migdash? There were certain things. There was an Hayrosh Shah.
And there's man and a bit. Yes, they were. I'm just not remembering what they are. Right?
The charger here.
In the kitchen, bro.
The drawer.
I don't know. Depends on my mother. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know any other examples right off then. But either way, but it was a weird case. The point is, it was a weird case when two brothers married two sisters and the sisters got mixed up. It's a weird case. So that's why we're not bringing rice. So the Gemara says Mechlalda Havai, which is to me a fascinating shaila, right? Yeah, that means that the story actually happened. How's that for a Yevamos thing? I mean, meaning, you mean something legitimately happened in Yevamos? It wasn't all just crazy cases that somebody thought up. Clearly, you can be medayik from this Gemara that the Gemara never assumed that these cases actually happened.
You know,
Right?
Shmuel came into base management. She said, "You won't believe who called me now on my phone." I'm saying Shmuel from the Gemara came into base management. He said, "You won't believe the phone call I got from Sfas just now."
You're right. Yeah, you say that. What? Yeah, that's right. So they didn't. They said,
yeah, you saw Rashi. Rashi makes
What?
it even worse. Rashi makes it not worse, harder. Rashi's raya is because it doesn't say Maisa in the Mishnah.
Right.
Otherwise, it would have said Maisa.
Right. Yeah.
That means, according to Rashi, all the Mishnayos that we have that don't say Maisa never happened.
It's an interesting thing. You're right. According to Rashi,
Why is that
it sounds like according to Rashi, only when it says the word Maisa doesn't mean it actually happened. Otherwise,
why is that
Sukkot should do when she built the Malam Yasser Mama. It doesn't say Maisa. Never happened.
Not that it never happened, but they're not donning it based on a specific story. It's dumb. It could have happened. It could happen. It's just not a specific case we're talking about.
No, that's the converse of what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is proving that it didn't happen because the Mishnah didn't say Maisa.
Proving that it didn't happen? No, the Mishnah is not talking about a specific case. That's all. It could have happened.
So
it
explain Mechal da Havai. That's the opposite of what the Gemara says. Mechal
da Havai, and that's what the Mishnah is donning on. The Mishnah is not donning on a specific case. They're saying stam a case.
No, that's not a kasha. You're just saying
the Mishnah
we can't prove from the Mishnah.
I don't know what that means. It's possible for it to happen.
The Gemara said it never happened.
It never happened in the times of the Mishnahs. Yeah,
I don't know.
It's possible
Okay.
to happen. I don't. The Gemara's not going in the future saying it can't happen. B'Matzias. What does that mean?
Why does anybody want to know if it happened or not? How is that halakhically relevant?
That's no, because the Gemara. I mean, what's the Gemara's kasha? You're right. That's another.
I mean,
good,
it's
good
like a
shot.
curiosity. Like that really happened.
Right. You're right.
I mean,
100%. That's a good question.
No, say Hiras Shah, it had to happen.
What?
Correct.
Say Hiras Shah, it had to have happened.
But I'm saying right. So that's Gemara's teretz, right? The Gemara's teretz is really going to be okay. Well, let's see. So Mechlal Davai, it's mashur that they really had it. It's like a Hirasha, right? Because this wife swapping thing is not something that's so common. So it's interesting. So now it sounds like, so what is it? Is it because it's loy shchiach, or because it was like a Hirasha, or is it both? I'm not sure.
Why didn't the Gemara just say Milsa Dele Shlicha? Why didn't you use a lashon like that?
Right. Why doesn't it just say this is an odd case? And it was an odd case. It seems like that is the second teretz.
Is it two different teretzim or was the same teretz?
Yeah. I don't know. No, it sounds like it's two different teretzim. Either way. Okay, let's see weiter. Lishna achrina, another pshat, Amri la, meaning the opposite. Right? So Shmuel here in the first pshat had said that a katana Yisroel has to wait 3 months, and this one's going the other way. Everybody has to wait 3 months, except for a gezeira and a gedola, not katana. Before it said katana, here it says gedola. Now what's the pshat? Ava katana bas Yisroel ain't tzricha lahamtin gimel mashma that a katana bas Yisroel doesn't need to wait 3 months, which is the opposite of what we just said. Shmuel said before, which is why it's ikadamri. So b'mai. So what's he talking about? If it's talking about miyun, that she doesn't have to wait 3 months. Amar Shmuel chadazim. Shmuel already said that once. That when she does miyun, she doesn't have to wait 3 months. Beget, and if she got divorced, talk Amar Shmuel debayit. We already said Shmuel said that you do need to wait 3 months if a girl less than 12 gets divorced. Amar Shmuel miyana boy. If there's miyun, she doesn't have to wait 3 months. Nasala get, but if he gives her a get, she does need to wait 3 months. So what are we talking about? Elab is nus. We're talking about znus. There's nus by katana loishchiach, and it's not common for there to be znus by a katana. So since it's not common for there to be znus by a katana, so she doesn't have to wait 3 months. So the Gemara says, "Giyayres umashachreres teshchiach who's nus ligzar." Okay. So giyayres and meshachreres, that it is common for them to have znus. So then why don't we be geyser and they should have to wait 3 months, right? Shmuel said they don't have to wait 3 months. So our answer is Hudamak Reb Yaisi. He going to like Reb Yaisi. The Tanya, we have a brisa giyayres v'ashvuya v'ashivcha. If you have a giyayres and a shvuya is a lady that's captured, and a shivcha sheniftu that they were redeemed v'shenisgayru v'shenishtachru. Now, if you noticed, just outside Sahara, it's out of order, right? Giyayres should be nisgayru, shvuya should be niftu, and shivcha should be nishtachru, right? It goes in the order. The first it says giyayres, shvuya, shivcha, and then it says niftu, nisgayru, nishtachru. It's out of order, but that's a Haggadah type question. That's just to get the oilam ready for the Haggadah, because if you've been dying in the Haggadah, there's a lot of these type of diyukim to be made. Okay, we'll leave it at that, right? But anyway, so okay, it's out of order. Either way, so all of them, tzrichas lahamtin gimel chadashim, before they get married, they all have to wait 3 months. Rabbi Yehuda, and because the reason is, the assumption is that they were used, right? People were mezana with them, or a giyaris because she wasn't Jewish, and a shivcha and a shvuya because their bosses, whatever, took advantage of them. Rabbi Yaisi says that it's mutter for them to get engaged and married immediately. Why? So let's see in the Gemara. Amar Rabba, my time with the Rabbi Yaisi. Why does Rabbi Yaisi say they can get married right away? So kasavar isha mezana mishameshas b'moich kadei shaloi tisava. So we had this way back, like what was it, Daf Yomi Yevamos, that a woman who's mezana, so she knows she doesn't want to become pregnant from this nus, So she uses a moich, right? Which we said a moich is sort of like a
Sponge.
It's like a sponge that you kadesha like the saber that she shouldn't get pregnant. Now we know there's a Machlokes Rishonim if it means that she puts the sponge in before the intercourse or after the intercourse. She puts it in to take out the zera. That's a big halachic nafkamina. That already we did in Daf Yomi, and we'll have it again later on in the Masech. But whatever it is, she uses birth control so that she doesn't get pregnant from this nus. So since she uses birth control, she can get married right away because we're not worried about not knowing who's the father. So we understand Giyores. Since her das is to become Jewish, mintera nafsha, she watches herself that she makes sure she's not mezana, so that she can differentiate, then she can know whether she's having a child who is not Jewish or whether she's having a child that's Jewish. Meaning, practically, a woman who knows she's becoming a Yeris is not going to be with anybody for a few months before she becomes Jewish. So somebody who's captured and a servant, a slave, nami the shami mimarayu, they hear from their masters that they're about to be freed, and they're gonna watch themselves. But a eved, right? A eved, if their tooth gets knocked out or their eye gets knocked out, so they go free automatically. How's anybody supposed to know
How's the
when
shiv
that's
you
going to
watch
happen?
yourself?
What?
How does the shiv you never watch yourself?
You mean if the guy's being honest or anyways?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really mashma that okay, well, let's see the Gemara. The Gemara, I don't know if the Gemara is going to address it exactly, but from the Gemara's terutzim, that should be able to give a turn to Yikash.
Rashi says.
What?
Rashi
Well,
says
based on
nafsha.
Yeah, but how?
She cleans herself out.
Oh, so that's what we're going to see, right? So that's what we're going to see.
Rashi says straight up in this Gemara.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but he's basing it on the next Gemara, right? So let's see. So but a servant who goes up b'shein b'ayin, they don't know when their eye is going to be knocked out. So maybe they weren't watching themselves. So it says, if you're going to say that Rabbi Yossi is maida, if it happens in Mela, it's an accident as they call it, right? An accident happened, then Rabbi Yossi would be maida that you would have to wait 3 months. But anusa umafuta tzricha lahamtin gimel chadashim. Anusa and a mafuta needs to wait 3 months. The Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yossi matal yarusalanasa meyad. And Rabbi Yossi says no, it's mutter right away. So anusa mafuta, right? You don't know when that's happening, right, Rabbi? That's what you think you're asking. You can't protect yourself against rape. How do you know when it's happening, right? And mafuta also. What she does is she turns herself over after they're together so that the zera goes right out of her, and therefore she will not get pregnant. Right? Now, clearly, the Metzias has changed with this form of birth control too. And look at all the forms of birth control that are out there. This one is not. This one is not one that the doctors say goes with any sort of accuracy. Right? It's to turn over and let the zera not go inside. The Idach and the Tanakama, Rabbi Yehuda, I'm sorry. Right? So why can't they do the same thing? So perhaps she's not gonna know how to do this, to turn herself over right away after the intercourse so that the zera doesn't go out of her. So he's chayshid that they're not gonna be able to do it properly. Right? Now the Aruch HaShulchan Gerada says that after a couple is together, the woman should not jump up right away because it can be, he doesn't call it zer levatala, but he says because it's going to come out of her so fast. He says really she should stay there, she should lay there for a little bit. And also a woman's not really supposed to clean herself out. Now if they're on birth control anyway, it's a different story. But it's better not to clean themselves out right away after tashmish. Now, I don't know if we discussed this last night or not, but one of the big issues we discussed a little bit with the IVF last night, right? How to get the sperm sample or how to take the semen analysis. So one of the big shver shalos of IVF is how to get the zera in a halachic way that it's not zera levatala. But nowadays they got so good in the labs where a woman can stand up after being together and they have a cup, a special cup that she stands up right after they're together. She stands up, and it catches the zera, and they can bring it into the lamb, and they can use that zera to impregnate. And it's totally no shaila of zera levatala at all. Even the chassidim, who are very, very makbid on this type of stuff, are moided that's a lichatchila. You can do it, and it's no problem. So doing that takes away a lot of they used to not be able to do it. It's only in the last bunch of years that they had the technology to be able to clean it and to get it to actually get the zera to actually, meaning to test it was one thing, but to use it to impregnate is a different story. But now they do. Now they could do it.
Was it really zera levatala if the man had to do it himself, if they were going to be doing
No, it's not. No, it's not zera levatala. But why not avoid it if you can avoid the shaila? Why not avoid it? That's what the chassidim basically tying. Oh, Ramosha, they say Ramosha. I get into a fight with Bnei Olam about this all the time because the Litvisha are not nearly as machmir as the Chassidisha, and the Bnei Olam get very upset about, like, why do you tell them to do it in the regular way? Why can't they do it this way? And then whatever. It becomes a whole ASIC. But we're recording here, so okay.
Why do you mention if she's on birth control? Why would that make a difference?
Because the zera is anyway not impregnating her, so.
So why can't you say that with 5,000 other things? That she's on birth control.
No, you can't actively go. You can't actively go use a condom.
If it's on birth control makes no difference anyway. Like you just said.
No, so I once had a few times people ask me why if they're pregnant.
The wife's pregnant even or birth control.
So why can't you use a condom if she's pregnant?
Right.
The answer is no, because the zera has to go where it's supposed to go. If Hashem decides to make her not pregnant, that's Hashem's business, right? You have to do everything naturally. Okay, whatever. But that's what that's the practical that comes out of this sugi. I mean, hopefully it's not. It shouldn't be practical.
If somebody takes birth control, isn't that zera levatala?
Right. So that depends which type of birth controls. There's different shilas on all the different types of birth controls, but the pills and all that is not zera levatala according to all shitas, because you're not doing anything. You're fooling the body. You think she's pregnant. It's no different than pregnancy not being zera.
Also, it's not 100%. It's not 100% foolproof either. There could be a slight.
That's not the reason. That's not the reason. That's not the reason. No. I can tell you one thing. This way of birth control, the Gemara is saying is not accurate. At least this man has is not accurate. Okay, whatever. It doesn't go.
I think they had science back then.
What?
That's what the Gemara says to Shidduch Chachamim. Shema leit tisabuk yafa yafa.
No, but even if she isn't hafcha yafa yafa, I don't think. I mean, you're saying unless you're saying that the woman.
I don't know when we know it is. We don't know how to do it. Whatever. Yeah.
Maybe.
It's like Shmuel himself. This whole Gemara was about Shmuel. Shmuel's the one who said he knows how to be night the matter.
Yeah.
No one knows how to do that, but he knew how to do it.
Fine. Okay. So v'imo you kahenas, right? It's not weiter in Gemara. If they're kahenas, so the Gemara says that if they're female kohanim, then they're not allowed to. They can't marry kohanim. So Gemara asks, kahenas in Yisroel is like only a female kohen, a Yisroel is not. If a kohen is married to a Yisraelis and she's mazana, even if she's ma'anis, even if she gets raped, she cannot go back to her husband. Nothing to do with the female being a kohen. It's the wife of a kohen, whether it's a Yisrael, kohen, Levi, Yisrael. It doesn't make a difference. They can't get married. So Gemara says, if they were wives of kohanim, then they don't. Thank you. If they were wives of kohanim, then they don't have to. Then they're not allowed to go back to their husband. So Gemara asks, "Neshei kohanim in Neshei Yisraelim loy," but only the wives of kohanim and not the wives of Yisraelim. V'amar of Amram, Hamilsa Amra loy v'b'sheishes v'anarinu la'ainin b'mimas nisin. Right? That this is also a lashon, like the word that he said lights up the eyes from the Mishna, right? Which it says, Eishes Yisrael Shenensa, if you have a wife of a Yid who gets raped, Afal Pishu Muteras Labaila, even though she's mutter to her husband, Psula Kahuna, she's puzzled to Kahuna. Right? This is an interesting chiddush that he's saying. He's saying that we know the din is if a woman that's married to Yisroel gets raped, she can stay with her husband. If she's married to a kohen, she cannot stay with her husband. But let's say a woman is married to a Yisroel and she gets raped. Then her husband dies. She's not allowed to marry a kohen. Right? That's what the Gemara is saying. You hear what it's saying? It's the next level thing, meaning she becomes puzzled to the kahuna. She can go back to her husband now because her husband is Yisroel. But if that husband dies, she cannot go marry a kohen because she was raped when she was an Ashes Ish. Right? Fine. So that whatever it is.
What would be the tzad to marry a kohen to begin with?
Because an almana is allowed to marry a kohen. Almana is allowed to marry a kohen. She's a widow. She can marry a kohen. She's not divorced, but since something happened when she was married, that makes her puzzle to the kahuna. Even though right now she could stay with her husband. It's an interesting thing. With her husband, she could be because he's a Yisroel. But when that husband dies, she cannot be with the kohen. So whatever it is, so there it could apply. It could apply to Yisraelim that they're not allowed to marry a kohen. If she's a female kohen who's married to Yisroel, so what's the din? A female kohen that marries Yisroel can no longer eat trumah because she's no longer a kohen because she's now married to Yisroel. But let's say she becomes an almana or she gets divorced, then she goes back to her father's house. She's allowed to eat trumah, right? Because now she's back but being a kohen. But here, if there was a mistake or she was raped, then nifsul min trumah devein l'shayu, then they become puzzled from the trumah from their father's house, right? So that would be enough kamina for a female kohen that does not apply to Yisroel, obviously, right? Again, that if she a past kohen who gets married can no longer eat trumah if she gets married to Yisroel. If she gets divorced or she gets widowed, she goes back to her father's house and she could eat trumah. But if when she was married, she was raped or she was an einus, then she cannot go back to her father's house to eat the trumah. Okay, so that's the chiddush in the Mishna. Hadran alach arba axin l'chaim to I got my seltzer here.
Chaim.
Vodka. It's vodka with bubbles.
Avaro, now you know what the Kohanim were so busy with while somebody was eating shuman that was nosar.
Yeah, what were they doing?
They got to watch their daughters and their wives.
Correct. Yeah, because if there was a mistake, there was a mistake.
You think they're worried about some guy eating shuman and nosar while he's walking around on Yom Kippur?
Yeah.
Well, they should send their daughters to better yeshivas, you know?
That's probably what they were busy fighting over. They're trying to get their daughters. Exactly.
Why are the women punished? Why are the families punished if they had nothing to do with that? They were a victim. Why are they by Kohanim? Why are they punished?
Yeah, that's just the holiness of it. Those are the risks you take for being a holier than thou. No, that's no. I think that's what it is. Yeah, I don't know. That's just the way it is. There are perks to it, and then there are the drawbacks. You get people's trumah. You get to leave Chazar Sashat's Musaf when you're getting antsy to go wash your hands, right? You got to hold up your arms though, especially if you get a chazan.
No Kiddush club towards the end.
No Kiddush club.
No Kiddush club. That's yeah. But we don't know what's going on under those talesim, by the duchenim.
Yeah, but they also have to make sure to change their socks from the first day to the second day.
That's a drawback, Perek. I hear. Okay. Anyways, new Perek. Yeah. So this Perek actually,
it's a new business. Perek, duchening socks. You can mamish have the whole business now.
Once saw Cohen where he had these Spock socks, but same idea.
Oh yeah.
Is that what you guys are doing? Looking at each other?
Yeah, we're looking at that. What else are you gonna do when you're taking so long to
Okay.
I heard some German Kehillas, they don't take off their shoes.
Is that so?
Really?
It was a shir Rabbi Fan gave many years ago.
Interesting. I hear. All right, because if they did, they probably would have like shoe boxes next to the Aron Kodesh to put them in, like in the bowling alley. All right, enough on this. Okay, sure. Okay, we go back. New Perek, yeah. So now, what happens since we're talking about mistakes? So what happens if so the din is also when the husband, we said this a couple times before, when the husband dies, so you have to wait 3 months to do chalitza and yibum to see whether the woman is pregnant. All right, you got to wait 3 months. What happens if they didn't? So 2 things could happen. They didn't, and she could be pregnant. Obviously, she didn't. They didn't, and she could not be pregnant. So actually 3 options. 1, she could not be pregnant. 2 is she could be pregnant, and then she miscarries the fetus. And 3 is she's pregnant, and then she continues having the baby. Then you also have 2 options. He could have done yibum, and he could have done chalitza, right? So if he did yibum, and she's pregnant, so then she has to get divorced. But what happens if she loses the baby? So then, meaning a miscarriage. So then it comes out that she never had a kid, right? And also when we do chalitza, when you do chalitza, so there's a kulas and chumas to chalitza. If somebody does chalitza, so then even though you think like, okay, what's the big deal? So he did chalitza to a pregnant wife who he shouldn't have done. There's no issa there, no issa to do chalitza, right? But there are problems because if the chalitza is legitimate, she can no longer marry a kohen, right? And also, he cannot marry her siblings. If she has sisters, he can't marry siblings. So this all these things, all these variations can make a big difference as to whether this pregnancy is viable or not. So let's see how it goes. So if somebody does chalitza to his yivimtoi, to the woman he's supposed to do yibum to, and it's within 90 days. So it's within 3 months. V'nimtzas muberes, and then she's pregnant. V'yoldan, she has a baby. So now this mansha vlad shel kayama. So let's say the vlad is kayama, meaning the vlad lives. So who mutter b'kraveser? So that means the yibum was a mistake. So he's allowed to marry her kravis because her relatives, because the yibum was a non-yibum because she had a baby. V'hi mutaris b'kravav, and she can marry his relatives. Right, the loy pasul min kahuna, and she's not pasul from kahuna either, because the whole yibum. I'm sorry, it was actually chalitza. I'm sorry, it was a chalitza. The chalitza was meaningless. It's as if it didn't happen, right? So since it didn't happen, everybody's related. Everybody's allowed to marry because there's no relatives there. But ein of vlad shel kayama. But let's say she has a miscarriage. So who asur b'kroiveseh? He's not allowed to marry her relatives because they're now considered wives of his sisters of his wife. The asura b'krovav, and she's not allowed to marry her brothers-in-law. The upasla minakuna, she becomes pasla minakuna because she had chalitza, and the chalitza was legitimate because this baby never made it alive. I keep saying miscarriage is lav dafka miscarriage. It means even if the baby didn't make it 30 days, right? Fine. Hakainas is yivimtoi. Somebody who so that's if chalitza was done. What happens if he actually did yibum and then it came out she was pregnant? So now already that's an isser. See, chalitza, there's no isser that went on there. It's just a matter of who's going to be usher for the relatives. But by yibum, he actually, if she's pregnant, she has a baby that's viable, then he actually was over on a chi of chorus, right? Because he was slept with his sister-in-law who he's not allowed to be with. So Akainis says yivim, v'nimtzas muberes, v'yolda, and she has a baby. Bisman vlad shel kayama yaitzi. If the vlad makes it for more than 30 days, so then they have to get divorced because they're living be'isser. He had no right to marry his sister-in-law. The chayavim bekorban. They're obviously not chayav karas because it was a mistake, but they're chayav in a korban chatas because that's what happens when you do a karas by mistake. That's if the vlad lasts. It main vlad shel kayama. But let's say the vlad did not last, then yikayim. Then they can stay married because it came out lemafreya that the yibum was proper because she never had a baby, which we're going to see a big machlokes in the Gemara about this. Safik ben tisha larisha and safik ben shiva la'acharon. So let's say we have no idea who was the father of this baby. Right? Meaning she had the baby. Let's say she had the baby. How's it go? She had the baby 7 months after her husband, after the yibum. She had a baby 7 months after the yibum. So now that could either be she got married, she had yibum 2 months after her husband died, and she had a baby 7 months later. So now that could either be a 7 month pregnancy from father number 2, or it could be a 9 month pregnancy from father number 1. We have no idea, right? So Safek ben Tisha Larisha and Safek ben Shiva la'achran. So Yaitzi v'avlad kosher. Then what happens is they have to get divorced because it's a Safek. It's obviously a Safek daraisa. They can't stay married. Okay, so what about the baby? Is the baby kosher or not? And the vlad is kosher, right? V'chayavin asham tali, but they're also chayav to bring an asham tali. An asham tali is a korban asham that you say it's tali, it's hanging. Meaning, if you did the avera, then it's a korban. If they didn't do the avera, then it's not a korban.
Right? Nowadays, you be able to do DNA for something like that? Would this be a
that's the thing. That's the thing. Can you do DNA? Can you do DNA testing for this? I don't know. Icky bought me a DNA safer, which I never looked at. I remember today to look at it, and of course I forgot. So, but it's a shaila in the poskim. Pashtus is not. Pashtus is we don't accept DNA because first of all, it's not 100%. It's like 99.999.
I think for obligating, and like in Israel, to obligate somebody to pay, some of the baby's fees and think they'll use it at least as a sniff, at least as a sniff. But to establish, for example, adultery, I don't think they accept that.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Anyway, because it's, I think if I remember correctly, it has to be like the eye and roa where people can see, that kind of thing. It's kind of a. But having said that, I still think OJ did it.
Okay, whatever it is.
What about lichatchila? Are you allowed to get married? The week after, if you could test and see that there's no fetus, that she's not
right.
pregnant?
So that's another thing. No, pashtus is we don't go with any of this stuff. Right. With pashtus is we don't go with any of these things. We're gonna see tomorrow's daf or the next day's daf that it's gonna come up. It's gonna come up, and actually was a shiloh that happened here in town about 10 years ago about whether we say that the Metzias changed or not. Okay, well let's.
Why wouldn't they just put something in place that said, sorry, that would say all this stuff has to happen 9 months after the Petir of the first husband?
No, so that's why they wait 3 months, because 3 months will tell you the difference. Because a baby doesn't go, 6 months is not going to go. 7 months goes, 9 months goes as a pregnancy. Once you get past 3 months, it will not be viable as a 6 month pregnancy.
John Green's mother didn't know she was pregnant until she gave birth.
Remember that?
Yes.
I don't remember that, but I'm saying yes. Would you guys hear that?
No, what was that? John Green, his mother didn't know she was pregnant with him until she gave birth.
Come on. Well, that explains a lot.
How's that?
That's I remember when he said it in yeshiva. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I never heard. No, I never heard.
Yeah, she went to the hospital with stomach pains.
Yep.
Really?
That patient.
Yeah, but what happened to the 9 months of no cycles?
Well, that's a kasha for the Maisa. It's a kasha for the Maisa.
What do you want?
It's a good question, I'm telling you. It's a good question. But,
I had patients like that.
So they had a good time for 9 months. Okay, Naftali makes you happy.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, but fine. Okay. So, anyways, so those are the 3 levels here. We have chalitza to somebody who's pregnant, yibum to somebody who's pregnant, and a suffix ben shiva, suffix ben tesha. Yeah. Fine. So let's see. So itmar zokti gemara itmar hacholitz nu muberes v'pila. Let's say somebody did chalitza to a pregnant woman and then she miscarried. So now, obviously, she wasn't pregnant anymore. Do you need to do another chalitza? Right? It's not. It's a very simple question, right? Meaning they did chalitza. They're supposed to wait 3 months. They didn't wait 3 months. They did chalitza, and then they found out, oh, she's pregnant. You didn't have to do chalitza. You wasted your time doing chalitza, right? Then she miscarries. So now we're back to square one. So you got to do chalitza. So they did chalitza, but when they did the chalitza, they shouldn't have done the chalitza because she was pregnant. So does that chalitza count, or they got to do another chalitza? Right? Again, they weren't supposed to do the chalitza. They did it anyways. she was pregnant. If that baby would last and the baby would live, okay, they did chalitza, shine. The chalitza is meaningless, but the baby didn't last, right? Now, and she did a chalitza. Does she need to do a new chalitza? Or does the old one, when she was pregnant, work? That's a machlokes. Itmar achaylet muberes bepila. If he did chalitza to muberes and then she miscarried, she does not need chalitza from the brothers. Taisus already said it doesn't mean from brothers necessarily, but it means from anybody, from him too. She does not need another chalitza. The chalitza that what happened when she was pregnant worked. She does need chalitza, meaning the chalitza that happened when she was pregnant is no good. A chalitza for a pregnant woman works, and the bia, if they do yibum of a pregnant woman, will also be considered a yibum, which sounds interesting because the whole point of the yibum is that the brother should have kids. So they did a yibum when she was pregnant. So that bia could not have resulted in kids, but yet Rabbi Yochanan is saying that still would work because Lamaisa, she did have a bia as a yibum when she thought that that's what it was. So Lamaisa, they did it. That's the way Rabbi Yochanan says it. No, she's going to need chalitza again. Chalitza muberes loishma chalitza. The chalitza of a pregnant woman is not considered chalitza. Ubias muberes loishma bia, and the bia of a muberes is not considered a bia. So what's the machlokes? What is it talian? Either it's they're arguing in psukim, or they're arguing in a svara. If they're arguing in a svara, Rabbi Yochanan Savar, im yavei Eliyahu v'yoymar, the hadi yaber mapulim apala. Let's say she's pregnant, but Eliyahu Navi comes and says, by the way, this pregnancy is not going to last. Do you do chalitza or yibum based on what Eliyahu Navi says? Be la bas chalitza v'yibum he. He says, wouldn't she be a bas chalitza v'yibum? We'd listen to Eliyahu Navi. It was revealed to us retroactively that she really wasn't pregnant.
Why should you listen to?
That's right. So that's an interesting thing.
For what reasons? What are you listening to?
Right. So I think
not Torah.
That's why I understand. The way I understand it is it's not pshat. I mean, he's using Eliyahu Navi as a mashal, meaning if we knew with 100% certainty that this baby's not going to last, would you have a havamina that the yibum and chalitza is no good? No, because it's not going to last. Finished. It's just not going to last. How you know that's not going to last? However you know, right? But let's say you know.
Oh, we believe in nevuah. Eliyahu Hanavi.
It's not as though we've technology for it.
Yeah.
So that's an example now.
But anyway, okay. So whatever it means, just if you knew with 100% certainty that this pregnancy is not going to last, would you not say that it's
Eliyahu Navi is not a Navi now.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's just a mushal. It's just a mushal that. It's not. It's just a mushal. Yeah. Anyways, so hashtanami tiglaim milsalim afraid. It's revealed them afraid that she really wasn't pregnant. So therefore, the yibum and the chalitza is okay. We don't say that retroactive. Bottom line is, you did the yibum or chalitza when she was pregnant. You're not supposed to do that. So therefore, we look at it as it doesn't exist, and so you have to do it again. That's the pshat in the Machlokes, Rish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, at least a piece of it. Bibai saying makra. Oh, we have a pasuk. Rabbi Yochanan Savaru ben Aimlei. The pasuk says she doesn't have a son. Amar Rachmana v'had leslei, and she doesn't have a son. The pregnancy fizzled out. Rish Lakish Savaru ben Aimlei ayin alav. She doesn't have a son, but bima ayin, meaning if she's pregnant, then that's enough to tell you that there is a son, at least at that point in time. So therefore, the chalitza and the yibum is not going to work. Okay,
so that's a breiris again.
What?
Is this a breiris again?
Ah, very good. I was waiting to see if anybody would ask. Can you say breira on this? So the Mefarshim discuss it and say that they bring it up, the Mefarshim, but what do they answer? They say it's different to hear that you would not say it would not be involved with the breira, but of course I don't remember what they say. But anyway, so that again, that's a machlokes. So our Mishnah should be very clear that it's a kash on Reish Lakish. The Yekas are here from the Chiras Chometz. So Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan, that's the kasha of the Rish Lakish. Ein havlad shel kayama, right? So what do we say in our Mishnah? If the vlad doesn't last, who asur b'krov v'seh, he is not allowed to marry her relatives. V'hi asura b'krovav, and she is asur to his relatives. Upsula min kahuna, and she's passed from the kahuna, right? So bishlama lididi damina chalitza muberesh shma chalitza. Again, our Mishnah says, a couple minutes, yeah. Let's have a seat, yeah. So our Mishnah says that if the vlad is not going to last, right? So that means he's usher and her relatives, and she's usher to his relatives, and possibly a kahuna, because the yibum was a legit, the chalitza and the yibum was legit. So chalitza, but the problem was that the chalitza was done when she's pregnant, right? It's a perish in the Mishnah. The chalitza was done when she was pregnant. It's mamish mashma like Rabbi Yochanan that the chalitza works. So chalitza. That's why they're puzzled. But according to you, who says the chalitza muberes is not a chalitza, am I puzzled on a kuna? Why are they puzzled on a kuna? She never did chalitza. She never had chalitza, right? Chalitza when she was pregnant is not a chalitza, right? This is l'chayr. The Mishnah seemingly is a very strong raya to Rabbi Yochanan. Again, the Mishnah says that if they had chalitza when she was pregnant, then baby ended up dying, so then the chalitza, she's puzzled to everybody, which means her chalitza was a kosher chalitza, even though she was pregnant. To write to Rabbi Yochanan, so my answers are you're right. Really, she is mutter the relatives, but we say it's a derabanan and it's a chumra ba'alma. See, that has to do with the musar. It's a chumra ba'alma. Yeah, that we keep chumras. Then the Gemara says, Ika da'amri. Now here you spin the raya on its head, and Rish Lakish is going to spin this that it's a kasha on Rav Yochanan from the Mishnah, which is not the simple reading. So it says if the vlad does not live, who asur b'krova, right? He is, meaning it's a legitimate chalitza. He's not allowed to marry her relatives. She's not allowed to marry his relatives. The pasuk of kahuna and the pasuk of kahuna. So bishlam it's good according to me, meaning Rish Lakish, who says that the chalitza muberes is not a chalitza. Tamina chalitza is muberes loishma chalitza. That I hold the chalitza muberes is not a chalitza. Hanu the katani pasuk min kahuna. That's why it says that pasuk from kahuna lechumra, meaning it's a chumra. But like katani ain't a tzricha chalitza min achin. It doesn't say that she doesn't need chalitza min achin because she does need chalitza from the brothers. Then it's just saying it's a chumra. But according to you, ain't a tzricha chalitza min achin. You shouldn't have said that she's usher to the relatives. You should say she does not need chalitza from the brothers. That's the way the Mishnah should have said it. Samarle and Achanami, you're right. It should have said she doesn't need chalitza. But I did it on a ratio loy pasla. But since in the ratio when the baby it lasts and the baby lives, she's not pasla because the chalitza was meaningless. So Tana Seifa pasla. So the Seifa also just uses the word pasla, but really it's not pasla. Really that she needs a new chalitza. Fine. So then the Gemara asks another kasha from our Mishnah. Eser Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan asks the kasha Rish Lakish. Ein vlad shel kayama. If the vlad does not last, yakayim, meaning they can stay married. Bishlam alididida mina chalitza muberes shma chalitza. So Rabbi Yochanan says, according to me, when you do chalitza on a muberes, it's considered a chalitza. Ubias muberes shma bia. And if they did a yibum on a pregnant woman, it's considered a yibum, even though she was pregnant. That's why we say, okay, so the yibum worked. You don't need to do another yibum or a chalitza, and then everything's fine. But according to you, who says that if you do chalitza on a pregnant woman, it's not a chalitza, and the bia muberes is not considered a bia. They should have to go back and do another bia to have a yibum. It should have said you should have to do the whole process again. If it doesn't say that, it's a riot to Rabbi Yochanan. So our answer is no. My yikayim. What does it mean that yikayim? Doesn't mean you just stay married. Yachser v'yibo v'yikayim. You have to go back and have another bia, another yibum. The loisagi that it's not enough to just stay married. Igadamri. So we'd say it the opposite. If the vlad does not live, Yikayim, so even Mekayim it. Bishlam alidi damina chalitza is mubaras lo shma chalitza. According to Machlokes, who says that if you do chalitza on a pregnant woman, it's not a chalitza. Ubiyah is mubaras lo shma biyah, and a biyah is not a biyah. Hainu de katani yachsav yikayim v'yachsav v'yibum, right? V'yikayim. The loisagi, meaning you have to go back and do a biyah and remarry her because the one you did when she was pregnant is no good. Belav hachi. I'm sorry, if you kind the loisagi belav hachi, it's not enough without doing it, meaning you have to do it again. According to you, they don't have to go and get remarried. If they want to, they could. If they don't want to, you don't have to. So my answer is, I did the Tanarasha Yaitzi, Tananama Sefer Yakayim. Since the Rasha said Yaitzi, they have to get divorced. So in the Sefer, it's going to say you have to be Makayim. All right? Yeah, okay, so I guess we'll stop it. So those are the two kashas back and forth from our Mishna. Bottom line is we just have to remember the Machlokes of Yochanan and Rish Lakish at least at this point, is if you do yibum a chalitza to a pregnant woman and the pregnancy dies, is that chalitza and yibum good or not? Yochanan holds it's still good, and Rish Lakish holds it's not good. All right, have yourselves a fine night.
Yeah, I go.
Two quick questions. Would you say koshering a pot filler is something that you would be okay with?
Koshering a what?
A pot filler. A faucet over a
filler?
stove. Yeah, it's a faucet by a stove.
I thought that's something you use for marijuana or something.
That's a filler of a pot. So, what do you think about that? You never got asked this question?
Make me share this. I don't know what I don't know what that is. What is that?
People have a faucet above their stove.
Yeah, you saw them.
The pot filler. Icky has that.
I have it in my house. Yeah.
For the best of them, I don't think that gets close enough. I mean,
what do you mean? It gets very close. You're cooking macaroni. Well, I'm saying I don't know about macaroni, but
Jacob, there would be a problem with Zaya, no?
When you're when you're filling the pot, there's no water in there to have Zaya from.
No. A lot of times you refill because it burnt out or blown out or anything out. You refill with more water.
Not Naftali, only you can burn water.
It's called evaporation. I learned about it.
You stepped right into that one. I'm sorry.
I know, man. Sign it.
I'm used to it.
All right.
What would be the difference between that and those exhaust fan
regular
bourbon?
sink?
All right, give me a call when you get a chance.
That means I'm a shliach? Yes, not Israel, though. No, but I have a lot.
What are the comments on does anyone know?
What? Go ahead. I'm doing two things.
So what do you think? I could do it?
I think what's a big deal to pour boiling hot water on it?
The Zaya. Okay, fine. What about a flower? What about a vase, a glass vase? That had been cleaned with chametz.
What about what?
A glass vase that's been cleaned with chametz.
I don't know. My father's a friend of the Rocha was not pro putting it on the table. For the life of me, I can't understand it. What do you think is going to happen with a vase that
let's say you clean it in the dishwasher or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't see what the problem should be.
What do you mean, Tiago? Some of us have used it as a schnapps cup.
No, I'm just saying. So you don't need a pastic glass vase because we don't kosher glass.
Correct, but it doesn't have to be kosher. What do you wash your vase in the sink with all the chametz?
Yeah, let's say
you do
in the dishwasher.
If you do, then you're not eating out of it.
Right. That's my question. It definitely is clean in the dishwasher. Question is it? I'm not eating out of it. Not necessary.
You're not eating out of it, so then just put it on the table and finish.
I know.
What was the question mark for?
I'm thrilled.
First one or the second one?
What are you saying?